All right, everyone. So I am back. So obviously my storage was full. So I had to fix that. So the video stopped. So I'll probably upload this in two parts just because I don't feel like editing it all together and all of that. So anyway, let's get finished. And I am still using um, that kind of watered down, darker blue tone. And up in here, I'm going to start focusing it more so of the top of the petals of the plant. So I'm putting the blue down first. And then I'm going to blend down into the sides. Keep blending slightly into that red so that the colors start to blend together. And you guys, if I keep looking to the side, I have a reference. Oh, and if you missed part of the first video, hi, welcome. I'm Kicherra, and this is my channel, Kicherra Creates, and we are painting a red succulent today. We're basically halfway done, so let's get it finished. So we outlined everything with the red, and now we're taking this deep navy blue and going into the bottoms and on the tops of the flowers to, the petals or whatever they are for succulents to give some shadow and some dimension and all that good stuff. So up at the top, I want to make it dark at the bottom to make it look like these are coming from behind. So I need to mix up some more dark blue. So I'm just using regular blue. I'm putting in a little bit of red to make it more of a navy. That's how I got that really dark navy color. And I'm making sure the paint is smooth onto my brush and that it's not too heavy so that I can blend into the colors around it nicely. And see, for this one, I'm making it fairly dark, but you don't want to just put the paint in the middle. You kind of want to fan it out to the sides. You want it to blend in some with that red. And I'll add some more right here because I want these fairly dark. And I pretty much took that navy blue all the way up to the top, basically. So now we are going to get started with our base green. So I'm going to make a nice pale green, and then I'm going to go over top of that with some lighter shades and some darker shades to add some more color dimension. But right now we're just basically putting down the base coats and blending everything together. So with that said, I'm going to clean off my brush because there was still all that dark blue in there. And I'm going to get some green, a little bit of blue, and I might use some turquoise, some white. Now let me blend that up and see how I like that. And add some yellow to it, not too much, and a little bit more white. So it's a pretty pale green. Now, whenever you mix white into a color, it becomes very opaque or pretty solid or whatever. So I want to make sure I don't have too much paint on the brush. And I'm kind of going to start in the middle wherever the darker blue is and blend it up. Still want to blend into the sides. That way the colors all start to blend together. And see, it's green, but it's almost has a blue tint. It's almost more of a teal. And I'm doing that more so because I'm going to add other shades or tones to it. So I'm kind of just putting it into the middle, into the sides. And see, I'm just kind of blending it into what we already laid out. Nothing too particular. It's just about blending. All right. And we're just going to kind of keep doing that until we have some of this shade on every single little petal. And if your brush starts getting stiff, if it starts getting hard to move the paint around, you either need to get some more paint on your brush or some more water. And start in the middle first and then fan up, down, and out to the sides because you want to get some of that red too. Remember, you want to touch part of the red as well, because you want it all to blend nicely together. And as you can see, I'm not being too particular. I'm kind of just making sure each petal has some of that shade into it. And that was a little bit more paint than I wanted, so I'm gonna spread some of it over to this side. Remember, don't be afraid of touching or painting over some of that red. That's how you're going to get the effect that it is blended together. So you want it to blend into the red a little bit. You still want the red to stand out, but you want the colors to blend or kind of fade into it. remember, like I said, kind of blend into the red. People are always so afraid of going outside of the lines. Painting, usually it's just a grid, it's just a guide. Unless you're doing something like a portrait or something along those lines, kind of just play around with it and have fun. As long as it looks like a succulent, who cares if I stayed in every single one of the lines? So, there we go. All right. Let me step back from it for a minute and take a look. All right. I think I want to add a little bit of this almost teal, turquoise, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to take that same color that I was using and I'm going to add more green into it. And I think just a touch of red. Literally a teeny tiny bit of red. I'm just using that much. And go ahead and I'm going to mix that with that lighter tone that I already had. I still want it to kind of be on a blue scale, so I'm going to mix some more. Let me see. Yeah, I think I might like that. And see, I'm smoothing out the paint on my brush. I'm diluting it some so it won't be too thick because I don't want it to cover up all of the other layers that we put down. We want it to blend into it. So we don't want the color or the paint to be way too thick to where it's just going to cover over all the work you just did. So we're going to start in the areas where there aren't any color, of course. Go ahead and start with your green, but you're kind of just going to blend slightly over top of everything. Start at the tips. If you get too much paint, work with what you got and then bring it down. And the same thing, you kind of want to blend into that red. Down here at the bottom, I'm kind of just going right against the red line and bringing it down. The rest of them, since they're going in the opposite direction, it's different, slightly different. You want it to blend into the red, so don't be afraid of letting it touch the red. That's what you want. All right. And see, I'm kind of just making sure it's got a touch of this shade everywhere. Blending it into the middle and into the sides of each one of these little petals. Let me step back and look at it for a second. I'm going to add some more touches of green. And see, I'm kind of just It's a little bit of a brighter green. I'm kind of just laying it over top what we already put down. And I'm not cleaning the brush off because all these colors are kind of blending into each other. So we're just going with it. I'm starting with that. Lighter green that I made, and then I'm going to go and add some bright green into it. All right, and it might seem like I'm just kind of throwing on some color because I really am. This is all about just layering the colors. You want it to kind of touch some of those red areas some. So don't be afraid of that. Now I'm going to go back with some of that bright green and touch up some of those areas. Let me step back. Yeah. I'm just going to kind of add some here and there and in the middle, no particular way. We're just adding some more color to it. So you don't want them all to be the same. So just play around with adding some color here and there. All right. We're getting there, y'all. It might not seem like it, but before you know it, we'll be done. All right. So now I'm going to go back with that red that I initially made. So I started with a brilliant red, and I think I need some more. Where's my red? Found it. All right. Come on, paint. All right, so I'm definitely buying paint today because I'm like out of paint. No bueno. Luckily, I don't need that much red. I'm gonna mix up what I got. So, just like earlier, I'm gonna add just a touch of green into it to deepen that red. There we go. That's the shade I wanted anyway. So that worked out. Perfect. Brighten it up some more. I know I got some more paint in here somewhere. Yep. Perfect. All right. So I'm just gonna outline all the areas that were in red. And I'm doing it kind of dark initially, and we're gonna go back and brighten it up with some bright red on top of it. Start with your darks first. The only time I don't start with my darks first, a lot of times, if I want to outline something at the end in black, I'll do my outlines in black at the end. Otherwise, you do start with your darks. And see, it doesn't have to be perfect if it doesn't follow the line perfectly. We're just covering up where we have that lighter red. And I'm going to move pretty fast because I don't want this paint to dry. I don't want it to be too wet, and I don't want it to be too dry. So I'm going to quickly just outline the areas that were red. And I know y'all got real quiet, but I got focused. I'm just trying to get all of this covered up so that I can start blending into that red. And see, I'm not being too picky. I'm not trying to trace the line perfectly. I'm just touching out where some of that red was so we can blend down into those greens. All right, great. All of it's covered in some red. I'm gonna start blending down, and I want my brush to be pretty dry. I don't really want to add any water into it. I just want to blend down with the paint that I already have. Unless I need to add a little bit more paint. If the paint's not moving, add a little bit more at the top and then blend it down. And today we're kind of just playing around with technique and all that fun stuff. So we're not making this piece super realistic. We're really just kind of having fun playing around with color blending and some textures. So bring the red down. And blend it onto the sides too. You don't want it to just be blunt lines. You want it to blend. If you got to go back and blend into the red, then do so. All right, more water on my brush. Just blend in the reds, blending it down and into the sides. Just blending out that red. You don't want it to be really sharp lines. And when they're kind of curved on the sides, you want to do the same thing you're doing on the top. Blend it out on the sides. All right, let me step back. All right. I'm gonna go back with that dark blue that I had. Mix it with a little bit of green. And down here at the bottoms, add a little touch. Try not to cover up the red areas that you just painted. If you touch them a little bit, that's okay, because we can always go back and fine tune at the end. Let me step back. And a little bit more blue. And believe it or not, soon we will be done. All right, with that same brush, I'm just going to dilute it a little bit. Not going to really clean it off, but blend some of that blue up. I'm just kind of smoothing it out. I'm still blending my strokes upwards. It's okay if you touch the red just a little bit. And like I said, acrylic dries really fast. So sometimes you might have to add a little bit more water and paint to certain areas to blend it out. All right, at the bottoms where I put that darker blue, I'm just blending it upwards. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm just blending what we just put down. Right here, I got too much paint, so I'm going to take that off. There we go. I'm just blending, blending, blending. Painting is all about blending and layers and composition. So those are the bases. All right, let me take another step back and look at it. All right. So I'm gonna start adding some highlights with just some white. And like I said, this painting isn't gonna be too complex. I really just wanted to play around with the texture and the shapes of doing smooth kind of curved lines. So we're gonna do some highlighting with some white. I might do a little bit of shadows with some black, and then we are good and done. So I'm loading this brush up with some white. I kind of diluted it. I want it like an ink consistency. So let's see here. Just kind of on some of the tips of the petals. I want to give a rounded appearance, excuse me. I want them to stand out. So I don't want them all the same, but I just want to show little touches of color variation so it's clear to see that there's different little petals, that they're not the same or it's not one just solid shape. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I'm kind of just playing around, making sure that all the shapes stand out. Like if I feel like one area is getting kind of blending together, then I'll make sure I'll go around and define the outline with just a little bit of white. I'm not going to just cover up the whole thing. Just enough to tell that there's a different shape. See, like right here. All right, let me step back again. I'm liking that. I think I'm gonna pull down the areas that I did in white a little bit just to blend it out some. I didn't clean the brush off or anything. I'm just bringing the white down just a little bit, blending it out a little bit wherever I put some. I'm not changing the shape of anything. I'm just blending it out. So I'm making the lines a little bit softer. And see, I'm kind of, it almost might look like I'm scratching the canvas or doing little circles on the canvas. I'm just moving around that white paint that I just put down. If it starts to get a little too stiff, go back into that white paint that you diluted. Make sure you wipe off the majority of it and go back in and blend those areas with your white. And like I said, after this, I might add little touches of black here and there, but we're basically gonna call it done. I'm gonna add some more red right there. I didn't mean to cover that up so much. Clean out the brush because I touched in some of the red, and load it up with a little bit more of that diluted white. And keep blending out where I had my white. See, I'm just blending it out. It almost looks like I'm just roughly scratching or blending into that white paint, kind of pushing it down. All right. Let me step back and look again. All right, I like that. I'm gonna add just some little teeny tiny touches of pale yellow into some of these areas of white. I just think it will look nice. Make it pop a little bit more, add some brightness to it. And I'm not just painting yellow right on the areas where I painted white. I'm kind of painting some here and there and around it just to complement the white. I'm not covering up the white with yellow. All right, just added some yellow here and there. Just wanted to add a little bit more color to it. Felt like it just needed a little something extra. that back one more time. Okay, I'm liking that. So I'm just gonna go in with that same brush. I pretty much use 2 brushes the whole time. A 2-inch flat brush and my round brush. But I'm gonna go into black. I'm gonna dilute that black to where it's like an ink consistency. I want it kind of runny, but not to the point to where it's dripping. That's good. Brush off a little bit of extra too. And in certain areas, I'm gonna add some black and start to blend that out. Kind of in the middle of the petals. Basically, I'm focusing on the middles where they would overlap. And kind of just putting some black and blending it up. Basically the same technique we did for this whole piece. We want it dark at the bottom and blend it up. I'm gonna do these ones down here a little bit too. All right, let's keep it moving and do some more. Not blue, I'm trying to use black. Pick that up. Let's see, and now going back in and adding some shadows at the bottom. Any petals that kind of weren't standing out, it helps them to stand out some more. So I'm just in the middle where it would naturally be darker, putting some black and blending it up. getting there. This is basically the last step I'm going to do, and then I'm going to call it a day. All right, let me take one step back from it one more time. Just one or two more things I want to add. Right here, I want to add. All right, blend that out. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed joining me and painting with me today. So I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to say I pretty much like the way that it's looking. It took us a little bit longer than I wanted to, and my video stopped. So either I'm going to do this in 2 parts or